Welcome to the Peter Legge Podcast, where you're empowered to lead, inspire, and influence. Now, here's your host and mentor, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed speaker, and community leader, Dr. Peter Legge.
Well, good morning to everyone from our studios in Palm Springs, California, where the weather is 90 degrees and there's not a cloud in the sky. And I'm only saying that to make everybody envious. I don't know what it's like in Vancouver, but we're down here for a few more days. And so the broadcast is originating from here, although our guests are scattered over in BC. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Fridays with Seniors podcast. And the topic today is finances and taxes. My guests are Peter Wales, who is the president and CEO of Credit Counselling BC. Navi, have I got that right, Navi?
Navi, Hara, yes.
Branch manager, Coast Capital Savings, and Zabeena Shine Navigation Lead, Senior Services Society BC. Ladies, welcome. Good to have you here. My first question is for Peter. What does Credit Counselling Society do, and where does it fit into the financial service landscape?
Great. Thanks, Peter. And first off, thanks so much for having me today. It's wonderful to be here. So Credit Counselling Society is a not-for-profit organization that provides help with consumers who are in various degrees of financial difficulty. And we have a motto that we help, we educate, and we give hope. So we help in terms of the fact that anyone can give us a call if they're in financial difficulty, they're having challenges, they're not sure where to go. We actually have offices across Canada, as far east as Ontario, so all 5 provinces. We also service the Yukon and Northwest. And so whether you come into our office or give us a call, we can answer any number of questions. We educate in terms of, we have a financial literacy arm. So we work with organizations and corporations to provide financial literacy to their employees and sometimes their clients as well. We'll hold webinars, lunch and learns, et cetera, on financial literacy topics. And we also provide financial literacy education to individual consumers. Anyone can actually go online to nomordebts.org and sign up for any number of courses that we provide free of charge on financial literacy. And then we give hope. This is the part I'm most proud of. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of shame often about having financial difficulty, feeling overrun by debts. But we encourage people to give us a shout. At no cost, we will often talk them through their situation with a non-judgmental approach, and it guaranteed at the end of every call that sense of hope that they're taking that first step towards tackling their financial situation.
So for a number of reasons, they get into these financial issues. And so you're looking not only to solve it, but to get them out of it and move on with their life. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And, we've been in business for over 27 years. We just celebrated our birthday last week. So we've seen across Canada, we've seen it all. And that is our goal. Our goal is to help consumers and recommend different courses of action they can take and send them on their way.
Okay. Is there one reason people get into financial difficulty, or is it just an assortment of reasons?
It's an assortment of reasons. I think oftentimes people think it's a certain type of individual that calls us, but I can assure you that we see all shapes and sizes. So whether you're a professional earning, 6-7 digits a year, or you're someone that is new to the workforce, or you've just, varying levels of degree, of education, of socioeconomic background, the reality is life happens to everyone. And even the folks that might pride themselves on being the most educated, or the life still happens to them. And sometimes things like the cost of a divorce, or having to take care, maybe having to quit your job to take care of a loved one, these all create financial difficulties. And that's why it's really important that we're there to help them through that. Our counselors are accredited. They're very experienced in credit counseling and financial issues, but oftentimes there's just the counseling them through the emotional aspects of it as well, which we pride ourselves on.
Navi, in terms of bank accounts, what does a power of attorney cover and not cover?
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the question. And thank you for having me here as well. For power of attorney is a legal document which grants authority to an individual, we call it attorney, to act on behalf of another individual, we call it a donor, in relation to donor's financial affairs. Basically, they can act on somebody else's behalf in their best interest. A POA may become invalid for a certain number of reasons. When that happens, attorney is not permitted to act on donor's behalf in any capacity. Even enduring POAs, will end in certain situations. And when that happens, it's always best to contact your financial institution for more details.
Is your service available to anyone who calls?
Yes. Well, power of attorneys, as I said, are valid, especially around financial matters. So if a member is a donor and they give power of attorney to their family members or friends, it is available to our members. Attorneys or donors can reach out to us, and we will help them through facilitating that, setting up that power of attorney on their bank accounts to help them, manage their finances going forward.
Excellent. Excellent. Zabeena.
Hello.
Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Based on your line of work, what are some of the impacts of doing or not doing your taxes annually?
Well, thank you, Peter. So doing your taxes annually keeps your taxes up to date, and you can become eligible for benefits such as GST or a GIS or the Seniors Low Income Climate Tax Benefit. And all this is based on the calculation of your taxes. For seniors over 60, qualifications for the BC Housing Safer Subsidy are based on income from your CRA Notice of Assessment. GIS recipient, you could qualify for a discounted BC Bus Pass. This is something common that we see in the work that we do at Senior Services Society of BC. And the impacts of not filing your taxes or filing them late, you could end up paying, or you will end up paying, a late penalty if you owe money. You could be charged interest on taxes if you pay them late. And you're entitled to your GIS. You must file your taxes by April the 30th to avoid disruption to this payment. This also can apply to GST payment.
So is there one overriding problem on the list that you just mentioned?
Yeah, the biggest impact for the clients that we see is not having, it's really hard in this economy right now for the housing affordability, and income is everything. And without doing your taxes up to date, you could miss out a big chunk if you're eligible for GIS. And that really helps bump up clients' income monthly.
I gather the government are not nearly as friendly as we'd like to think they are. Whatever the date is, that's the date.
Yes. April 30th is key because, like clockwork, it's going to cut your GIS.
Is that the biggest issue?
We see, well, there's a number of reasons of why people aren't doing their taxes on time. As Peta was saying, life happens. Sometimes it's not a priority. They haven't done their taxes. So sometimes clients forget, or, different situations going on in their lives, and taxes sometimes, often in our work, we ask them if they've done their taxes, or if they're, if things are up to date. And the question asked is, well, what difference does that make? I'm here to find housing. So in our work, it's important to ensure that clients are getting full benefits that they're entitled to. And taxes are the driver of all those things, especially could be receiving things like GIS and GST benefits.
So is there one bigger problem? What is the biggest problem?
Just the impact that it can have basically on not doing them. And I think it's more of the awareness piece of how important it is to do the taxes. Yeah, can't stress it enough.
Okay, Navi, do you want to make a comment on that?
I completely agree with Zabeena. It is important for everyone to stay on top of their taxes, regardless of their age or the benefits or whether they owe or not owe to the government, because there are many other things, even from banking perspective, when we look at, Zabeena has mentioned about GSTs or GIS or government, entitlements that people are entitled to that may be delayed, but also in terms of lending needs when they come to financial institutions for their less, we need their up-to-date taxes. We need to know if they owe any taxes. We need to see their most updated tax assessment. So past that date for personal taxes, if you haven't filed your taxes, we cannot lend you money in case we need to see those taxes filed. There's a different deadline for personal taxes. There is a different one for businesses. So if you're past that due date and you haven't done your taxes, we may not be able to lend. We may be, but we may not be able to, and we will ask you to go back and file your taxes and bring up-to-date tax notice of assessments to us.
It's an open question for the three of you to answer. What types of debt can clients receive assistance on and with?
Well, I can go first. For as far as financial institutions are concerned, we have various kind of products that we can help members with. The first and very foremost one is an emergency line of credit. Safety net, we say it, an overdraft or a line of credit. It's an unsecured debt based on it may or may not be based on your income, definitely based on your credit bureau, a safety net which is attached to your checking account for your regular daily expenses, any bill payments going out of your account while you're waiting for your pension check or your paycheck to come in, to cover those delays between your money coming into your account and your bills going out. It avoids NSF fees, non-sufficient fund fee, because the payments will still go out. You have that overdraft protection. From there on, we have mortgages, which we help members with in terms of acquiring their residential or investment properties. We can help with consolidation loans as well. Like Peta said, if they are carrying external debts, revolving credits on their credit cards, we can consolidate that into one loan, one payment, which will be a plan to pay it down in the next 3 to 5 years, versus a revolving credit and never plan on their credit cards at high rates of interest, which will also improve with their cash flow, which we can put towards saving, towards other goals. These are the basic ones, and then we move on to commercial side. But for personal side, it's basically overdrafts, emergency use, your mortgages or lines of credit on your home equity, lines of credit on your houses for bigger expenses like renovations or any other expense. And then we can help our members with consolidation debts as well.
Interesting. Zabeena, does this apply to people at any age?
Well, for the clients that we serve here at seniors, it's 60 plus that we serve. But being a former banker, I agree with everything Navi is saying, that those were the tools that and in the line of work that I'm doing right now, working with seniors in the social work field, where I'm identifying clients during intake to see what kind of debt they have, and then in that sort of a situation, I can help refer them to, if it's CRA debt, contacting CRA to try and get on some kind of a payment plan, or if it's financial institution debt, I'll recommend that they contact their financial institution to see if something can be worked out. And absolutely, we refer clients to credit counseling if it's something that's collective debt that maybe they can talk to, and we refer. So it depends on the type of debt of where we're going to, recommend that clients get in contact with to try and get help with that piece.
Is there a debt limit?
Oh, I can jump into that. Debt limit, of course, that is dependent on your income. There is no dollar limit, but yeah, we do have certain policies and guidelines and procedures. You have to qualify based on your income. How much can you really hold and repay? There are certain, we call them ratios. We calculate your shelter cost, and we have to take care of other expenses as well, which are, we call them shelter cost, and then there is total debt servicings. Yeah, you do have to qualify. There are limits based on your income. So that looks different for everyone.
Hmm.
And then I'll just jump in to sort of close the loop on this. Building on what Navi said, where Credit Counseling Society comes in is if folks are overwhelmed with debt. So perhaps debt's been overextended to them. And certainly in an environment like today where interest rates are going up, the cost, particularly when we think about mortgages and upcoming mortgage renewals, that can have a real impact, knock-on effect to other unsecured debts. And so when folks call us, one of the services that we offer, we basically look at their whole financial situation. So we'll look at their income, their expenses, their assets, their liabilities, and from there, understand where they're struggling. And we generally recommend one of 3 courses of action. So the first is a self-managed approach where perhaps their situation is not overly complex, but they just don't know where to turn. Maybe we share with them some tips or some rights that they didn't know they had. Oftentimes we're referring them back to their bank or credit union for things like a consolidation loan like Navi spoke of. But if that scenario doesn't work, maybe because they, can't get a consolidation loan and any other kind of variety of reasons, another option we provide is what we call a voluntary debt management program. And that is an in-house program for us that we offer, that it's a voluntary repayment of their debts. And what we do is we go out to the creditors with whom they hold debts, and we negotiate away the interest portion of that debt. In most cases, we can negotiate away the full interest payment, so bring the interest down to 0. But even in some cases where we can't do that, we can greatly reduce the interest charge. And that savings on the interest component makes enough of a difference to the client that they can now afford to pay down what's left, the principal portion of all those debts owing. And after 4 to 5 years of doing that, they now become debt-free. Now, I should be clear that these debts we're talking about that fit with this program are unsecured debts, and they exclude government and government debt and student loans. But if the client's circumstances perhaps includes that, or is more complex, or for whatever reason they don't fit the profile of a debt management program, we can refer them. We have a list of trustees that we trust, that are credible, that we can hand to the client to take the next step, which is potentially more of a legal route where they're looking at a consumer proposal or a bankruptcy. And so regardless of the type of debt a consumer holds, generally, if they give us a call, we can kind of speak through a number of different options. And again, give them that sense that they're now, they've got a plan.
It seems that time is almost run out, but I do have one other question about scams, and maybe each of you would comment on that. Scams, clients falling to those kind of hucksters. How do they avoid that?
we have seen various kind of frauds and scam, which are on the rise these days. I think the basic, how you can avoid them is awareness, knowing about them and asking that one extra question is very important. For example, I'm going to just name a few. There are identity frauds or stolen identities or personation frauds. So it's very important for us to verify our members or know our members. We always talk about know your client. If most of them are regular members, we see them day in, day out, we know them by their names, so we can protect them. Other times, if we are seeing them for the first time or we don't know them by name, we ask for picture IDs, a valid piece of ID, so that we can verify. Asking extra questions, around unusual transactions on their account is another way of protecting them, because we here at financial institution, we have seen all those different kind of transactions, but this may be the first one for our member. So sometimes, members do get upset about asking that extra question. Why do you need to know where I'm taking this money? But then educating them as to the reason why we're coming from a place of care, not breaching their privacy, but it is about asking that extra question. Well, Mr. Member, this is not a usual transaction for your account. We just want to make sure you're being protected. Is somebody asking you to withdraw this kind of money from your account and pay them or something? And they usually come around and they're more than willing to share the details. And there has been instances where actually we have protected our members by just asking that extra question. There was this romance scam that a member was being victim of, and she was wanting to send this wire offshores. And when we asked this extra question, and a senior member, when we asked that question, this is not a usual transaction for your account. Do you know this person who you're sending a wire to? And she really opened up that she met somebody online, and apparently that was her fiance that she has never met, and who's in jail and needs to be bailed out. And she's sending this money, and we were able to protect her and tell her, well, this is a scam. You're being a victim of a scam. And she listened and she never sent the money. And she came back a week later and said, well, that person is not answering my phone anymore. So, asking that extra question, I think this is how I coach my team. And this is what we do here, is reviewing transactions when member is in front of us, trying to conduct a transaction, asking that extra question to really know the reason and protecting our members. And key is awareness. I think I hosted a fraud seminar in a seniors week, going over different kind of frauds and scams that are out there, and how can we protect ourselves, not being falling victim in that very moment. We do fall victim of it, especially, the recent one I've seen is around members receiving phone calls that their loved one is in jail or held, and they need money to bail them out, and somebody picks up cash from their home actually to bail them out, and these members are here in branches to take out large sums of money. So, awareness, I think, is a key on how we can protect ourselves through scam, and being calm in a situation and making that extra phone call to confirm if their loved one is really in trouble or not. I think that's how we can prevent some of these.
Very interesting. Zabeena, do you have issues with certain scams?
Yeah, we recently have helped a client who fell victim of a romance scam, as Navi was just speaking about. And yeah, this person was on an online dating site, and the fraudster had put a celebrity's photograph in place of their own and just transfer some funds to this fraudster, and unfortunately became at risk of losing their housing because they were just going through their savings. And fortunately, they came to us in time, and we were able to intervene and get her children involved to help her with that situation. So they, did prey on this vulnerable client, and yeah, I think they know how to target them, and they do. Again, the grandparent scam, we haven't had that one yet, but we are aware of that one where your alleged grandchild will call you out of the blue and, grandma, grandpa, I need some money, and there we go with the rest of it.
And if I can build on the grandparent scam. So this actually happened to my mom. So she received a text message from someone portraying as not as her grandson, but as her son, saying that he was texting her on a friend's cell phone because he had dropped his cell phone in the water and it was damaged, and he had bills to pay, and could she please send him some money? And she immediately sort of thought, well, that's strange. Like, why wouldn't he ask his spouse to help? Or strange answer. And he was all panicked. And so then she at least had the sort of the wit enough to say, okay, well, what was the nickname of your grandmother? And of course, it was a question that only a family member would know the answer to. And his response was, oh, I'm too stressed out, I can't remember. And, at that point she knew, because this is not something you would forget. And so, when it comes to scams, what we advise our clients on, and those that call us, is two things. One, did it come out of the blue? Did this email, this phone call come out of the blue? Because if it's unexpected, and there's a sense of urgency tied to it, because there's always, you must act now, or you're going to miss out on this great investment opportunity, or you must act now, or we're going to throw you in jail because you're not paying your quote unquote taxes. So those are two red flags, that if you're not expecting that call and there's a sense of urgency, please ensure that you do not act, that you instead call maybe a family member, speak to a financial advisor, but make sure you share that situation with someone so that you don't get caught up in this scam and end up handing over money that would be a horrible thing to do. So those are the kind of things that we experience all the time as well.
But you have actual names for these different scams.
that they are, and I think that is the channels or how they approach these job and employment scams, where they were targeting members on, I believe, Craigslist to offer jobs. We're sending you a check, be our telemarketer, go do some shopping, mystery shopper. Oh, we sent you extra money, put in your account. We only meant to send you $100, we sent $1,000 to you, send us 900 back. So that was like, it was named a job and an employment scam. Romance scam is where they're like, targeting people on online dating websites. So they come out with these names. I think the scammers themselves come out with a name, or how they approach people, what kind of audience they're targeting, what kind of approach they're using. I think I don't know where these names originate, but I would want to believe that it's the way they approach is how they are named. Yeah.
There must be a university of training for this, I would think. Peter, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, so when it comes to training more broadly, just to work at our organization, to be a credit counselor, you have to be accredited. So they go through series of courses and education to get that accreditation, which is kept up annually through compliance. We have to make sure that everyone has the credits to maintain their education. Even to be in the credit counselor role, we have a couple other roles that are sort of a stepping stones towards credit counseling. And so there's a lot of kind of hands-on learning. So it's not just the educational piece, it's then the learning and experience that goes hand in hand before you even graduate to becoming an accredited credit counselor. And then once you're in that role, when it comes to trends like this, like scams, we're obviously very plugged in with various associations that we belong to that share insights on these trends, and we also do a very good job internally when our counselors hear from callers of things that maybe it's the first time a counselor, oh, this is a new one that's starting to happen. We make sure we share it internally amongst our staff so that everyone is aware and is on the lookout these types of situations so that we know how to deal with it in a consistent fashion.
Thank you. Zabeena, the last words to you.
Yeah, so for us, it's a bit different in the social service sector where we don't really have for training per se. We do rely on our community partners with sharing this information with us, a lot of self teaching going on with what's out there. And personally, for my own, having that background, I, try to keep aware of what's out there.
Well, ladies, we could go on for another hour, I'm sure. This is, for me, it's brand new. It's very fascinating, but it's valuable information that you're sharing with this audience. So thank you so very much for sharing many of these issues. And I guess to encourage people who are members of your organizations, if they have any questions, any doubts before they actually issue a check or write a check or cut a check or what have you. So thank you, Navi, thank you, Peter, and thank you, Zabeena. I appreciate it very much. This could be a good hour talk. We don't have an hour talk, but what you've said is what you've commented on today is very important, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoy this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review.